What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Bianca, and welcome to my channel. So, a couple of months ago, I was looking for a particular book. It's Michelle Obama's Becoming, and as I was waiting for the bookstore clerk of my favorite bookstore fully booked, as he checks if there are any more available copies for that book, I decided, even though I had only at that moment enough to buy a single book, I decided to look around the shelves and see what is new in their catalog of books. So there I was, browsing along, when I felt a sudden tug, a pull, if you will, to a particular shelf with a set of specific books. And these books, their taglines, they captured my interest immediately, and the synopsis on their back covers cemented my desire to purchase them. Thankfully, or annoyingly, since I still have yet to find a copy of Michelle Obama's book even now, Becoming was out of stock at that moment, and so I was free to purchase all 3 books and merrily go home. And so that is basically how I got introduced to one Liz Braswell and her Twisted Tale series. So I actually have all 3 of the books that she has for that series, and these 3 books are the books that I was talking about in my anecdote. So now I have 3 of her books, and I've only just read 2 of them, with the most recent one being the topic of this video, and being also my favorite of the bunch, based from these 2 that I have read. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the book, let's talk a bit about the author. Now, I enjoy reading about the people behind the books that I read. I like to know who they are, who they were, and how they got to where they are now. Being an author and a writer myself, I see them as co-conspirators in making the world a much better place through the literature that we write, showing the light of humanity and the strength we all carry inside through the lives of the characters that we create and develop. So reading about them gives me inspiration as much as reading their works do. But anyways, Liz Braswell is, in my humble opinion, one cool and badass author. Not only did she graduate with a degree on Egyptology, which prior to reading about it, I didn't know that there was a degree for, and was a member of the gaming community, producing video games for 10 freaking years before penning a number of books, one of which is a series that I am still searching in vain for in the bookstores here. It's called The 9 Lives of Chloe King. But anyway, the book that I want to talk about is something I picked up for this week because of the live action adaptation of the classic Disney cartoon movie this was based from finally releasing a full trailer. And even though I am itching to talk about that particular trailer and rant about what the hell they did to one of the most beloved Disney characters from that movie, I decided to turn somewhere more positive and a lot less ranty and share thoughts about this book instead. So Twisted Tales is a series of books that takes a bit of a darker spin on the beloved classic Disney fairy tale movies that we all grew up watching, but not in the way that the original fairy tales are, but more in a way that adds more interesting elements to them and allows the reader to deeply peruse the characters we think we know and love, and get to know them in a different, more human level, and also get people to see that not all victories essentially have that they lived happily ever after thing going for them. and that just because a villain was defeated does not mean that there are no other problems to come along and nothing left to fix. And it's really interesting reading about the characters we grew up watching and seeing and understanding them differently, peeling the layers of what makes them tick and realizing that what we thought we knew was just skin deep version, or just a skin deep version Disney wanted us to see. And truth be told, the fairy tales that we know and love, they don't really have that sunshine and rainbows retelling that Disney made them famous for. There's more to them than that, and I think that's what Liz Braswell has going for in this book series. Now again, so far I have all 3 books from the Twisted Fairy Tales series, and again, I've only read 2 of them. The first one, a story based from Sleeping Beauty, it's called Once Upon a Dream. It really didn't capture my attention nor enraptured me much as this book that we're gonna talk about did. Now what we're gonna talk about is the Aladdin one. It's called A Whole New World, and this is one book I couldn't really put down without knowing how the thing ended, so I read through the entire thing in just one day, and it has a hook, as you guys can see, that asked, what if Aladdin never found the lamp? Now if you read through the entire thing as I did, then the question or the hook would more specifically be, what if Aladdin found the lamp but immediately loses it to Jafar? Now the back cover synopsis of the book has this to say: Aladdin is a street rat. Like most, he's just trying to survive another day in impoverished Agrabah. Jasmine is a princess, one who is about to enter into an arranged marriage. All she wants is to escape her fate, to see what lies beyond the palace walls. But everything changes when the Sultan's trusted advisor, Jafar, suddenly rises to power. With the help of an ancient lamp, Jafar attempts to break the laws of magic and gain control over love and death. Soon, Aladdin and the deposed Princess Jasmine must unite the people of Agrabah in rebellion to stop the power-mad ruler threatening to tear the kingdom apart. This isn't the story you already know. This is a story about power, about revolutionaries, about love, and about one moment changing everything. So it's a pretty interesting premise, and it delivers on the promise it also has on the back cover, which I just read. It says, this isn't the story you already know, and it really isn't. Sure, this book has all the characters we know and love, but it depicts them differently, more human. It also shows a new side to these characters. How the story starts is also different, and how it ends, it's vastly different from the movies. And not to mention the fact that Agrabah isn't as empty as the movie's storytelling suggests, and the people of Agrabah in this book aren't just passively accepting whatever the story throws their way. There isn't a peddler storyteller at the beginning. Instead, we catch a glimpse of Aladdin in his much younger years, and we learn his backstory in the form of his mother and the abandonment his father did to both mother and child. We are also told of how Aladdin got Abu, and that Aladdin isn't this only street rat, nor is he a loner in the whole of Agrabah. How Aladdin is depicted in this book is also very different from how he is portrayed in the animated movies, and I'm guessing also in this upcoming live-action adaptation. In this book, Aladdin is a smart and kind street rat who doesn't steal just to steal, but he steals to fill his belly and never takes more than what he needs on a daily basis. He is understanding and not at all greedy, and he only dreams of a better life. Now in this book, Jasmine and him meet, in basically the same way, but the way Jasmine is in this book is different as well. There are more layers to her character. She's not just some naive princess in need of rescuing, but she's strong, capable, and resilient. She isn't perfect as well, and she has this darkness inside her born from anger and the need for vengeance that threatens to engulf her and her light. And up to the end of the book, you wonder if that darkness will indeed engulf her. Now, my favorite character in the movie, which is Genie. Genie is also obviously in this book. He has a backstory too, and we learn more about jinns and that there is a civilization for them and the reason behind Genie being trapped and forced into servitude by granting wishes to whomever rubs the lamp. It's pretty impressive and also spoilerish, so I'm not going to go ahead and talk about that in this video. Now, how Genie acts and interacts with other characters, it is expanded in this book as well. It's expanded to the point where you can sympathize with him and his predicament. Is not just this jovial, larger-than-life Genie we all know and love, portrayed immaculately by the legendary Robin Williams, with a sole reason for being there to grant wishes and prove as an obstacle to our heroes once Jafar gets a hold of him. He isn't that sort of side character in this book. He actually plays a huge role in Jasmine and Aladdin's revolution. He isn't as weak and subservient as well. He is actually capable of actual thought and decision making, even when bent to the whims of the Grand Vizier turned Sultan Jafar. Now, speaking of Jafar, Jafar is also greatly overhauled in this story. His drive for power and reasoning behind it isn't just because he is a madman wanting to become stronger and more powerful than anyone else to rule all of Agrabah. He is actually much more than that kind of character, that kind of evil, villainous character in the story. He actually has his eyes set much higher. He has a much grander goal, and his reasoning isn't complicated either. So what that reason is, it actually fits into the narrative the story is telling, as well as the lessons, the larger lessons this book is aiming for. Now, similarly, Jafar isn't as witty as his movie counterpart depicted him to be, but at the same time, reading about him in this book, it gave me chills. He's much more creepier, but at the same time, there are also some scenes in the book that had me laughing because of him. Now, there are a lot of side characters in the movie that do appear in this book and are given way more importance than they did in their animated versions or their counterparts in their animated versions. For instance, the captain of the guards, Razul, he knew Aladdin when he was still a boy, and instead of this frightening guard that chases Aladdin relentlessly and who seemed like a shady character in the animated cartoon movie, he is actually depicted in this book as just a loyal and hardworking guard who raised in rank because of his hard work and his dedication, and not because he is some sort of dirty cop. And he also believes that what he's doing, it's for the sake of making Agrabah better. And he is in the story not just to chase Aladdin around and prove to be a foil to our heroes. He actually plays a semi-important role in the character development that Aladdin goes through in the entire story. The Sultan, Jasmine's father, similarly gets an overhaul as well. In this book, we get to understand why he acts the way he does, which is that he is a bit childish and just seems to enjoy playing with his toys than actually ruling his people. We get to know why that is, and we get to dive into his character through the eyes of other characters. And in this book, in A Whole New World, the Sultan isn't some lovable, quirky, fat old man. In it, he is actually not loved at all, with the exception of Jasmine. But he's not loved by the people that he rules. And I think that is such a long way away from how he is depicted in the animated movie. Now, there are a lot of characters that never existed in the Disney adaptation of the cartoon, and maybe even not even in the live action adaptation, and they are given life so well that you can imagine them actually being there and just not being noticed as the movie progressed. And though I would like to go into detail about each and every one of these characters, doing so will once again spoil the book, and it will definitely spoil the book for anyone interested to read it. And so I would rather not do so. I would rather not spoil anything about this book. So I'm not gonna go and enumerate who these characters are and what they do for the story. So if you want to know about them, then you would just have to read this book. Now, this book is pretty dark as well. It has a lot of deaths, so many, like really a lot. There are depictions of torture as well in this book, which is done in such a way to one character in particular that is so shocking, and it makes your mind race behind the reasoning to it, which is later revealed in the book as well, and that reason makes you go, oh, I see, that makes sense. There is a war and a revolution, and we do get to read about it as it happened, as it is planned, as it you know, comes together. And there is espionage, multiple heists, different magical creatures as well. There is action, intrigue, suspense, and the story doesn't focus so much on the romance between Aladdin and Jasmine, but in their growth as people and the trials and tribulations that they go through in order to attain this book's version of a happy ending. Now, the book also talks about the line between good and evil and the morality of one's actions, and how we can go beyond the stature of our lives and beyond the labels that people put on us to become more than who we think we are and who we think we can be. Or we can end up becoming less than the people we could have been. So there's actually a passage in the beginning part of this book that resonated well with me, and it feels like a great reminder to people no matter who you are, and it goes like this. So allow me to read to you guys a passage of a paragraph really from A Whole New World, and it goes, don't let life's unfairness, don't let how poor you are decide who you are. You choose who you will be, Aladdin. Will you be a hero who looks after the weak and powerless? Will you be a thief? Will you be a beggar, or worse? It's up to you, not the things or people around you. You can choose to be something more. And now that is just beautiful to read. It's a beautiful reminder to be given of. It's great to be reminded that the circumstances of one's birth ultimately is irrelevant. It is what we do with the gift of life that determines who we are, that we can be better, more, irregardless of where we started. The beginning and the end matter so little compared to what is between our life's journey. Now, as for the ending of this book, now the ending, as you may expect, it is vastly different than that of the story we know of Aladdin and the Genie of the Lamp. And although the rest although like the rest of the book, I mean, there are some nods to the cartoon, there is a significant part of the plot that deviates from the original. Suffice to say, it is an unpredictable ending, and it is one that will make you pause and reflect, and then after reading the last sentence, make you grin dorkly at how the adventure ended. So, A Whole New World, this book, it isn't boring, not by a long shot. There's not a scene in it that feels wasted. Everything culminates, and I mean everything, culminates perfectly. My only gripe with it is that for all the building, like world building, character development it did for the first and second acts, or the beginning act and the middle part, the final act, the climax of the story, feels a tad bit fast-paced, that it makes me feel like the ending came a bit too early, it came a bit suddenly, and I honestly wanted to read more. If I'm being honest, though, and I try to be when it comes to reading or talking about the books and the games that I've read and played, I like this book's retelling of Aladdin better than I did the cartoon and possibly even the live-action adaptation combined. This version has more weight in it. As dark as it is, there is light in this book, not just from the lessons to be derived, but the fun and actual light-hearted moments that makes this a great read and a superior form to the story of Aladdin. So, am I recommending this book? Well, the answer to that is a resounding yes. I 100% certainly am, complete with the VM Studios seal of approval. If you love the cartoon, if you're excited about the live-action adaptation, if you just love reading books in general, then you would, without a doubt, enjoy and love reading A Whole New World as well. Just keep in mind though, there are no musical numbers in this retelling. And well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining me in today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye bye now. What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Vian, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content of this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button to let me know. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to be a part of the Dreamer Tribe, just hit on that subscribe button. We also have tons of different content here on my channel, so be sure to check those out. Until the next video, dream on, fly on.